Hello, everyone. My name is Will Gasper, Grief Support Counselor for Hospice in Michigan in the Cadillac office. And normally when we do these men overcoming loss groups, we talk about grief issues that us men experience. This month, we decided to change things up a little bit and talk about what's going on with this COVID-19 situation that we're in. And certainly it changes the whole ball game for everyone, us counselors included. So for this session, we decided to go around the virtual room and have the men that joined us talk about the issues. And it was agreed upon that this is probably the toughest thing that we've had to deal with since 9/11. But on the other hand, 9/11 was kind of a temporary thing where we didn't have to stay at home, where we saw all the givens in life is kind of taken away. Businesses shut down, having to wear a protective mask. 9/11 didn't force us to do anything like that. So now, even going to stores, we have our sense of safety taken away from us. And it really is a challenge for all of us to kind of find a stability, a place of stability. I had one gentleman tell me that as much as he loves to fish, even the steelhead fishing that he loves to do this time of year was taken away because of Governor Whitmer's edict about social distancing and not being in a boat that takes a motor to go out on the water. Our motivation seems to have been taken away, our reason for getting out of bed some days. And it's a strange that this is a time when we all, not just us men, but all of us need more support. But the ironic thing about that is that it's less accessible. We, as counselors, we cannot meet with anyone in person these days. Everything that us counselors and therapists do has to be by phone or, like we're doing here, on video chat. And we had one gentleman who is a part-time pastor talk about how spiritually we are distanced from all those folks that we would meet on a weekly basis in our congregations and our churches. And so all of that is just another thing piled on top of what we need and what we're going through. One gentleman talked about he was so bored being home alone. His wife passed away 22 years ago. That he's turned to having long phone calls with people that he loves, writing long emails to senators and the governor, everyone that he feels he needs to be in contact with. And there certainly is a risk by coworkers, those of us who are deemed essential workers. There's a risk of being around our own teammates at work, our coworkers at work. One gentleman talked about being essential services in transportation, and how that when he's kind of relegated to running his team remotely, how he's challenged to support them, but yet keeping them distant from their own team that they work with each and every day. Another man talked about not sleeping well, and that kind of stems from a loss of control, a loss of safety. And as we know that we can only control what we can do, and that's a very small circle of control. The rest seems to be out of our control. My co-counselor, Wes Lawton, talked about us humans being our social creatures. We need to have physical connectedness, physical connections. But grief in this time seems to be an overwhelming feeling, an overwhelming emotion, especially for those of us who have lost someone and we are still in the process of working through that grief. It's this COVID-19, the lack of safety, anticipatory grief is what it is that we don't know the future. We don't know when this is going to end. We don't know what tomorrow is going to bring, what new edict our government is going to impose on us. We don't know when it's going to be over. When it's over, is it going to come back? So, there's actually somewhat relief in not doing the task we would normally do in COVID-19, but then again, that creates kind of discombobulation, a confusion, disorientation, that the familiar is no longer within our control, that we're just not able to take care of those tasks that we would normally do. And again, some folks in our session said they were distracted from grief. They've been distracted from their personal grief journey because they are almost consumed by hearing the latest news from the TVs, the radios, the internet about what's going on. Now back to the gentleman who joined us, who was a part-time pastor. He said that a main thing that he's hearing from the people in his congregation is that funerals cannot happen the way he feels they need to happen. First of all, for a funeral to happen, you need a body, you need mourners, and you need a leader. Now, that leader doesn't have to be a pastor, a licensed and trained minister. It can be anyone that offers comforting words, someone to do a eulogy, someone to organize that. Inviting people to share stories, especially humorous stories, where we can come together, we can laugh, we can support each other. And those are very, very essential in our whole grieving process. And certainly if we can't gather together to see a body, to see that that person is physically dead and has moved on in faith, or just the afterworld, whatever you want to call that journey, that it's hard. It's really difficult. And folks are really being challenged in dealing with that whole no closure type of thing. We're missing our community. We're missing camaraderie. We're missing the chance to get together to support each other, to have people listen to us, and for us to listen to other people, to support them, to encourage them. And we talked about, as toward the end of our session, we talked about one of the roles that society places before us men is that we are protectors. And that originally was going to be the original agenda tonight, or can I say on the 21st when we had our session, that one of the 7 roles that society seems to place on us men is that of protector. And how can we be protectors when our hands are tied, when we're not able to do the things that we as a society have been called to do as men? So that makes it tough. That makes it a challenge. And one of the gentlemen that responded to that question, how can we be a protector? He said, he's got 2 daughters, and he has to tell them, stay home. Stay home, be safe. You can come by, we can wave at each other at the window. I can stand with the screen door open and talk to them, but I'm not going to let them come in to my house. I'm not going to be a recipient of anything that they're bringing to me. And so he has to protect himself. And he has to protect them because of possibly he carries the contagion. So the bottom line is we have compounded grief at this time. We are going through our own grief journey with the loss of our loved one. We are feeling the anticipatory grief that this COVID-19 has forced on us. And another thing is that we're hearing lately is that this first round may be just the first round. This fall, round 2 may be much worse because of the flu season, when people's immunity is very well compromised, very much compromised, and there may be even more people that fall sick or catch this COVID-19, and our health systems and our society might be even more challenged than it is now. So with that, I'd like to invite all of you back to our session in May. And let me get that date. I believe it is May 19th at 6 o'clock. We'll be getting together on HOM.org for the website or the registration page so that we can go ahead and continue this discussion about supporting each other. And with that, gentlemen, please take care of yourself and don't be afraid to contact Wes Lawton and I for any discussion, any words, just to kind of reflect on what you're going through, because we're here to help. Take gentle care.